This presentation presents basic information about the historical collection of stories labeled The 1001 Nights, also called the Arabian Nights. This presentation is for English 625, Readings in World Literature for Granite State College. Introduction. The collection of stories known as 1001 Nights, also known as the Arabian Nights, is a collection of folk tales and legends, primarily from the Middle East. The stories were written by numerous authors spanning many years, particularly the early years of Islam, from about 800 Common Era to 1400 Common Era. Many of the tales currently contained in the collection The Arabian Nights did not originate in the Middle East, but instead contain roots in folklore and legends from other various cultures, including Greek, Indian, Persian, Turkish, and Jewish. There are also some stories contained in the current published version of the collection which were not part of the original stories. These additional stories have been added over the years by various editors and translators. The current modern collection of stories contains many recognizable stories that are attributed to the Arabian Nights but were not part of the original Arabic stories. These include the stories of Aladdin, Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, and the 7 Voyages of Sinbad the Sailor. These additional stories, that were not included in the original Arabic, were added to the collection by editors and translators such as Antoine Galland, a French scholar. Galland discovered an early manuscript of the Sinbad story during the 1690s and had it translated and published into French. Antoine Galland was born in France in 1646. He died in France in 1715. He was a scholar and an amateur archaeologist. He also did many translations. He spoke French, Hebrew, Latin, Greek, Arabic, Persian, and Turkish. The basis of the stories contained in the Arabian Nights is a woman named Scheherazade, who told stories to the Sultan each night in order to save her own life. The Sultan, who ruled what was then called Persia, had a wife who he truly loved and doted upon. He worshipped her. However, the Sultan discovered that his wife had been unfaithful, and he had her executed. To ensure that he was never betrayed again by a wife, he ordered his prime minister to bring him a new virgin girl each day. He would marry this new girl, keep her as a wife for just one day, and have her killed the following morning. The process would then begin again, with 1,000 women killed. The Prime Minister himself had a daughter named Scheherazade. His daughter asked her father to select herself as the Sultan's next wife. She had a plan to stop the Sultan's barbarous actions. Scheherazade spent time scouring all of the books she could find and listened to all of the stories she could find told about the previous sultans and rulers from many other countries. She read all the poetry she could find and memorized everything she read. She studied numerous other topics such as philosophy, science, and the arts. After learning as much as she could, Scheherazade then volunteered to spend one night alone with the Sultan. During that night, she told a marvelous story that kept the Sultan mesmerized. She then stopped in the middle of the story. When the Sultan asked her to finish, Scheherazade replied that she could not finish because dawn was breaking and the night was over. The Sultan spared her life for one day so that she could continue the story the next night. The next night, Scheherazade finished the first story and began a second story, even better than the first, again stopping at dawn. Again, the Sultan spared her life so that she could finish the story the next evening. Scheherazade kept herself alive day after day by telling her stories to the Sultan each night. At the end of 1001 nights, she informed him that she had no more stories to tell. However, during this time, the Sultan had fallen in love with her. He declined to execute her and instead made her his wife and queen. The Arabian Nights uses the story within a story structure and framework. The primary story is that of Sultan, and the stories told by Scheherazade. Within that main story are all of the individual stories told by Scheherazade. The Arabian Nights contains stories with a number of themes. Among these themes are love and happiness, death, fate, and immortality, competition and contests, hospitality, greed, adventure, good fortune, and rags to riches. The Arabian Nights is not just a collection of tales. It has also provided inspiration for numerous other creative arts, including in our own time. Authors using the Arabian Nights as inspiration include Voltaire, Alfred Tennyson, William Wordsworth, Robert Louis Stevenson, Edgar Allan Poe, L. Ron Hubbard, Neil Gaiman, and Salman Rushdie. The stories from the Arabian Nights have been transformed into numerous film and theatrical productions, including many that are known to us as films from the Walt Disney Company. The tales have also inspired numerous other artistic works, including classical, opera, and popular music, table games, and computer games. My challenge to my classmates: can you name some other popular influences that the Arabian Nights tales have had on our society, excluding anything having to do with Walt Disney Company?